Hi, Roy Garden here, and welcome to another edition of The Right Has Left, and I am your host for this podcast. We have a lot of news to cover on The Right Has Left. What we do is, of course, we cover news from this past week, some of the top stories. So we have a lot of news, so let's go ahead and get into those top stories. And we're going to begin with the Texas flood. And as we well know, President Trump and the First Lady just completed a visit to that area. Now, we hate it when there's a blame game that goes around. And, of course, there is a lot of unanswered questions, and some of those are answered as to what happened to that flood and why so many people were, unfortunately, for lack of a better word, how can I put this? Basically, what happened is there's a blame game that's going around. All right, let's just put it out for what it is. And I, for one, hate bringing politics into something that was such a sad disaster as this. But unfortunately, we do need some answers as to some things that were going on. First and foremost, the Texas flood was a very sad situation, and it was a huge natural disaster. 120 people were killed, and 160 are still missing. And, of course, as we all know, many of these are children that were at some summer camps around the area. Now, the President and the First Lady just completed a visit to the Kerrville area. And, again, many people are wanting answers, including the victims. Now, the New York Times, just as I began this podcast, came out with a valid story. As thousands were calling to FEMA to get assistance, the phones just rang and there were nobody there to pick them up. Why? Because due to the DOJ documentation of too many people who are working in federal government, as we already know, the State Department has just laid off people, and we'll get to that story in a minute. But 155 FEMA members that had jobs no longer have them, and so the phones just rang and rang with nobody there to answer them because Trump wanted to do away with FEMA. Now, another situation where some of the Republican senators are doing the blame game is the National Weather Service. Again, unfair, because the San Antonio Weather Service did have, and when I say did have, they had, a very good advanced warning as to what happened there. The National Weather Service, as you can tell by the flooding area in this graphic here, did put out a statement and a warning that there was going to be some flooding, catastrophic flooding, in certain areas in the Texas area. Now, they didn't know exactly where, as nobody can really pinpoint it down to 5 square miles, but they did say that there was going to be flooding. They did say there was going to be over 7 inches of rain, so flash flooding was going to occur. And again, you have to understand that, the Trump administration fired a bunch of people from the National Weather Service, but they still did a heck of a job. And they gave advance warning, as I just mentioned. And again, with a staff cut of over 15% on a national scale from the National Weather Service, they had to do a great job, and they did. They put it out there. So to say that the fact of the matter is that, the National Weather Service is to blame here, that's not true. They did put out some advance warnings that there was going to be flash flooding. So to say that it's the Weather Service's fault, it's not true. Now, another thing where we can actually put the blame game, and that's going to go with this lady. Yes, Kristi Noem. She dropped the ball as well by delaying FEMA aid due to the newly enacted approval process that funds over $100,000 have to be approved. It took 3 days for FEMA to get disaster assistance to the state of Texas. And another problem that happened, this is on a local level. Kerr County officials waited up to 90 minutes to send out an emergency alert that the Guadalupe River was flooding. And there's now dispatch audio that has been released to validate that claim as well. Why? Because of a communication breakdown. Nobody knew who was supposed to officially put out the alert. It was confusion from the start when the first of the flooding started to happen. And nobody knew what to do. Now, as we all know, originally Trump pledged to scrap FEMA, as he called it, a waste of taxpayer dollars, and it should be returned to the states. Now that he's done this visit, he is maybe going to reconsider what he's going to do with FEMA. Again, it's that little taco acronym that's going on. First he says he's going to do something, and now he said he's not going to do it. So, again, with Christie now and there and waiting 3 days to get aid out, that also created some very strong, stressful situation for these families that are already dealing with a lot of problems. So we hope and pray that things can get straightened out there in Texas very quickly. I myself, my heart just goes out to these people who are still having people who are missing. They need to have closure. I do agree that they need to put some flooding warning sirens in that area if it ever happens again. And I really feel for these people. I don't know what. It's sad. It really is. And again, when you have national disasters like this, confusion is something that you just don't need. You need to have a plan and put it in place and follow through with it. And I know here in Florida, we have learned some hard lessons from hurricanes. And lately, in these past few years, we've had hurricanes that come on shore here in the state of Florida. Emergency action does take place, and it is organized, and then people do learn from mistakes. And I hope people here, with this thing in Texas, I hope they also learn from situations that go on there. Moving on to some other news, protesters were tear gassed again in California this past week as ICE agents and the FBI made an attempt to arrest more immigrants in a legal cannabis farm. I want you to watch this story from WRAL, and you'll see exactly what happened to that cannabis farm and the protesters there. Watch this.
The national immigration debate exploded without warning in Carpinteria when a large crowd squared off against both Homeland Security and National Guard personnel when they arrived and swarmed a cannabis farm. Foothill Road at Casitas Pass Road in the heavily agricultural area was blocked by military-style SWAT vehicles. Traffic was jammed up and hundreds of people came to the scene. Among them, Congressman Salud Carbajal, a former Marine. He went right to the front with his identification and demanded to speak to whoever was in charge. He almost made it through, but was grabbed and pushed back. He never got the answers he wanted.
This is just ridiculous. It's tragic, and it's uncalled for.
Carbajal said he knew the property owner of the cannabis farm where the action was taking place down the street.
This is overkill. There's military personnel on our streets. Basically, they're Homeland Security, people dressed as military personnel on our domestic soil. This is overkill. It's political theater by the Trump administration.
To get a school bus out, and after a warning, the crowd was briefly dispersed.
They started throwing pepper balls, tear gas, smoke, everything, just trying to disperse us because they're scared. They know that we're going to push back against it.
And from that, there were injuries, including a Carpinteria City Council member who said she was pushed to the ground and came up bleeding.
We were just standing there. We weren't even saying anything. Oh, wow, you're injured. You're bleeding.
Others who were in the line of rubber bullets and explosives that are called flashbangs were hurt.
This is a piece of a projectile that they
The flashbangs.
that they threw out, a flashbang in the crowd.
For those who were here, they were shocked that this could happen in Carpinteria, virtually coming out of nowhere early in the morning. At Glasshouse Farms, an employee who did not identify himself was fixing the gate that was broken down. He saw the scene and 10 people detained.
Go in and
get
they just broke it down, put everybody on the ground, and then just did what they wanted to do.
Did they go specifically for certain people?
No. No.
You think it was
So
random?
they did not have targeted
It was
people.
random, non-targeted people.
An Army veteran tried to tell the crowd not to target the personnel, but their higher-ups, who gave the orders as part of the increased effort nationally to deport criminals.
These soldiers had to obey orders, right? If they didn't obey orders, you know what would happen? General court-martial.
This scene was both emotional and shocking.
Let me tell you, I'm scared, even though that I'm a citizen and everything, but still, I'm scared, really scared for all these people.
When ISIL started to back up, the crowd started to follow. In my opinion, that's really not smart, because then that gives them a reason to start using stuff like tear gas.
Follow up on this story. A district judge has filed a stop on this, so ICE agents just can't randomly go into areas that they so desire in the state of California and do these kinds of raids. Kudos to that federal judge. Now, again, being transparent here, these protesters do have the right to protest, and they shouldn't have maybe crossed over the line, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get your message out. And in this case, they did what they had to do. The cannabis farm, just so you know, is legal in the state of California. But, for them to show up there and aggressively go after people for no reason at all, thinking that there's illegal immigrants there, well, that's another story in itself. So you have to, this thing is starting to get out of control. It's basically just a vengeance thing with Donald Trump, with the state of California. He does not like it. The state of California, he does not like the governor there, and so he's going to do what he's going to do. So right now they've got a federal judge that said put a stop to these random raids, but we'll just have to see how far that's going to go with that, and because Trump doesn't pay attention to anything that judges tell him to do. So what else is going on? The tariffs. Yes, President Donald Trump again is going on with those tariffs again, up and down, and again, he does deserve the name of the taco president because he keeps changing his mind. Donald Trump on Thursday, as I said, read tariffs, and again, he's going after Canada again. 35% tariff increases starting August 1st. We'll see how long that's going to take, if he'll drop it or not. But he's complaining that Ottawa had retailed with duties against Washington, and they're not working with the United States anymore. And of course, Canada did retaliate with its own tariffs. Trump said to Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, he was speaking with him about how we're going to get this all figured out. And here's the thing: why he's doing these tariffs. The president says it's fentanyl. That's the reason for it. If Canada works with me to stop the flow of fentanyl, we will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. They said that they have seized 43 pounds of the drug at the northern border during 2024, with an additional 58 pounds having been confiscated there so far this year, according to a United States Custom and Border Protection. Responding to Trump's announcement, he said that Canada has made vital progress to stop this scourge of fentanyl in North America, and we are committed to continuing to work with the United States to save lives and protect communities in our countries. Now, what is not mentioned in all of this, folks, is this. Now, what I just mentioned there sounds like a lot of fentanyl, and it is, but it is around only 1% of the fentanyl that is coming into this country. 99% of fentanyl is coming in from the southern borders, Mexico and beyond. And that's how it's getting in the United States. Now, not to take anything from that report, it is true that some fentanyl does cross from the Canadian borders, but it is a minute portion of what nationally is coming across the border. So you really need to know that. So for Trump to use that as an excuse, again, it's just Trump's obsession with Canada. He wants to make it another, the 51st state and part of the United States, and which will never happen. the other thing that's going on here too is the stock market has been reacting again with these talks about increased tariffs again, not only with Canada but with other countries, as you know he's talking about. So Taco Trump is going again with I'm threatening tariffs to try to get deals done. Then he brings them down, not going to have them, and then he is going to have them, and so it's we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. So let's move on to some other news here. And again, this kind of goes to my previous story. Let's bounce on over to the State Department. Again, since the Supreme Court has given the green light to continue these layoffs that have been going on, Mark Rubio has sent out the letter to get rid of people in a reorganization of the State Department. So here we go. Thousands again are being laid off from the State Department. And as you can see in this video above me, workers have already received their pink slips and they are clearing out from the State Department. Again, this is happening, ladies and gentlemen, because of simply one thing: Trump's retaliation to the State Department, and it's during his first term with the January 6th investigation. He feels all those people who, stormed the Capitol, created all that damage, and police officers lost their lives, they were patriots. But nobody else is, just those people. And so, therefore, they're starting to lay off people who have had their jobs for more than 40 years. 1,300 employees so far have been fired or laid off from the State Department. And again, it's so sad that this has to happen. But this is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, of all these people losing their federal jobs. And it's going to continue. With other news that's going on this past week, back to Alligator Alcatraz, or as it's getting its new name now, Alligator Auschwitz. And again, I live here in Florida, and there has just been some terrible news coming out of there. So detainees at Alligator Alcatraz, or I'm going to call it Alligator Auschwitz, that's really what it's becoming, have spoken with CBS News. Some of you may have heard this about the inhumane conditions there. Now, how CBS News got to these detainees is to still be figured out, of course, but somehow 3 people got to talk to CBS News out of Miami about the conditions there. And as we all know, Alligator Alcatraz has not even been open a month yet. So one person got detained there and moved there was artist Lesmanzila Figueria. He was arrested last week in Miami-Dade on assault charges and was transferred to the South Florida's new immigration detention facility there in the Everglades. And the singer confirmed in a phone call with CBS News that he and other detainees claim they are enduring inhumane conditions at the site, including lack of access to water, inadequate food, not able to take a bath or bathe, denial of religious rights. And as we know, this thing was built in just a matter of days on FEMA money, $45 million worth of FEMA money given to the state of Florida to complete this. That's why you see FEMA trailers there for the guards to live in. So they got money for that, though, don't they? Yes. It's about 50 miles west of Miami, this location, just if you're kind of wondering where this thing actually is. So the first group of detainees arrived there July 3rd, according to State Attorney General James Otmeyer. Lefariega, whose real name is Lamanze Ascarero, was charged with a deadly weapon and battery. And he was initially held at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center there in Miami, and then he was transferred to Alligator Alcatraz. As I said, he said there was no water, and he got a phone call from inside the detention center to CBS News. I don't know how he did that, but maybe they didn't confiscate his phone, or they have phones now there where detainees can make phone calls. I don't know, but he hasn't even been there a week, and all this is going on. The other thing that's going on is the food. They claimed that there is maggots in their food, and they're only getting one meal a day. Again, we don't know if that's true or not. These are all alleged claims. I have to clarify that and be careful here. These are alleged claims from the inmates. He also says that the lights are on 24 hours a day. It's hard to take, get any sleep. They also claim that there's no mosquito control there. That he says they're big as elephants in his terminology. And I can vouch for the size of mosquitoes here in Florida. They can get pretty large. And, of course, the other constitutional rights are being violated. One detainee had his Bible confiscated. He's a Christian, and they took it away from him. They can't even read the Bible. They're not respecting their religious beliefs or rights. And so we don't know if all of this is true or not. That's what they're saying. And as fast as this camp was built, I'm going to give some of these detainees the benefit of a doubt. It's probably a lot of it's true. Maybe they need to, they're going through growing pains. They need to make some adjustments of how food is delivered there and how food is kept, and it needs to be kept colder. I don't know. But I do know from experience that when things are built fast, you're going to have problems and issues. They all wanted a grandstand. I showed you in my video last week on my last episode of The Right is Left of how all these wonderful Republicans showed up there, girls in their high heels and skirts and lipstick and rouge and walking around. What a beautiful facility this is. And wow, this is so great. And they had like eye charts on the side, talked about how doctors are going to be there to take care of the detainees. And if they would just report to deport themselves, they wouldn't have to go through all this. We just want to clean them out of here. And to me, it was just a sad, pathetic thing that I saw there on the news about how they think this all's great. And they went on to say that a lot of us do have a residency documents and we don't understand why we're here and whether they actually broke the law or not. That's to be decided. One detainee who is a Colombian, he's not even getting his medication. He's going through deterioration of his mental health. He is on doctor-prescribed medication, and they won't even give that to him. So I don't know. You just have to take... I don't want to use the word of, take it to a word of salt that this is actually true or not. But there's been other reports from other people there who are going in and out officially, and off the record they are saying, yeah, it's not very nice there. So we'll have to see. Now, response from the Florida people, they said that the inhumane conditions allegations is not true. All the detainees are being treated fairly, and the conditions there is completely untrue. That the facility is good. It meets all required standards and is in good working order. Now you have to define what is good working standards, of course. Are they meeting just the minimum things to make it safe and legal there? I don't know. But that's what the Florida Division of Emergency Management said. FDM said that the engine behind Alligator Alcatraz, using the state's emergency management tools and funding to build it, was in full legal cooperation and meets all guidelines. What you have to understand here, all part of Project 2025, is all of these facilities, whether they are state-run or, as you are fully aware of, if you're not, you're in La La Land, there are a lot of old, closed-down private prisons that are quickly being reopened, and a lot of these so-called illegal immigrants and criminals are being transported to fill these private prisons. And I did a story about this as well, too. The corporation, which is in Tennessee, is making millions to close to billions of dollars very rapidly and very quickly as they open these prisons up and they're transporting these illegal immigrants there. So all these people are making big bucks from the Trump administration. It's a trickle-down effect But everybody's getting their copper pennies filled up very quickly from all of this. So you just got to follow the paper trail. They got to be put somewhere. And so, they're opening these things up really quickly. And, somebody's getting some money. So I just want you to know that, there's a reason for all this, and it's called money. All right, moving on. We are going to wrap up this episode talking about Pam Bondi and the Epstein Gate situation. This gentleman here that you're looking at now is FBI Deputy Director Dan Bonjo, and he wasn't at work Friday because he's had a huge clash with Pam Bondi over the Epstein Files. This gentleman and Bondi's dispute happened at the White House on this past Wednesday, according to a report from Axios. And what an FBI official said is this guy is not coming back. And you wonder why. See, there's been a lot of reports going on with the Epstein thing here. And the report is that is there a file or is it not? So who's in hot water right now? Yeah, Pam Bondi. She's in hot water. Now, she attended a cabinet meeting just recently with other members of the Trump administration, and a reporter again asked her about the Epstein Files. However, the president came to Pam Bondi's defense very quickly, shutting down the reporter. Watch this quick clip.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. My response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
So the Epstein Files controversy gained global media attention again after the DOJ released a memo to this past week saying that there will be no further disclosure in the Epstein probe. The memo confirmed that the so-called Epstein's black book containing the list of his clients really does not exist, nor did any blackmail take place over it. However, this did not sit well with many, as Bondi's handling of the case as Attorney General has faced a lot of criticism. Nevertheless, as Bondi and President Trump faced questions from the reporter of the cabinet meeting, the 79-year-old shrugged it off, Trump said, calling it a waste of time. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, as you just saw in the report? This guy we have been talking about for years. He says we have the Texas and other issues going on, and people need to stop talking about this. It's just an unbelievable waste of time. So we need to ask ourselves, is it really a waste of time, or is it not? Because even a lot of the MAGA people, Donald Trump says, hey, there is something there. We're upset with Pam Bondi now because I think she's just putting it under the table. So we don't know if there is or not. She's given some reports out, and, she said she misspoke, as you saw there in the clip, that there really never was a client list, and it wasn't sitting on my desk. That's not what I said. So it is absolutely crazy about what's going on with Pam Bondi. So there you go. That's the news from this past week. There'll be, of course, more news next week. It just keeps getting, more and more piled on there. Again, thank you, Donald Trump, giving us a lot of news every week about things that we can talk about. Again, my heart goes out to the people of Texas. It is sad that this has some ways become a political football. I hope the people get all the aid that they need. I hope in the future that some sirens are put in, and that these precious children, again, if this ever happened again, and to say that it won't, it will, probably it will, that there can be some warnings put into place. And I sure hope the U.S. government and FEMA takes care of these people, because the destruction, as you have seen in many, many videos, is just ungodly. And it's just so sad that so many lives maybe could have been saved if advanced situations were put into place. So, having said that, I thank you for joining me on this edition of The Right Has Left. Until next week, you try to have a good week. This is Roy Gardner. Take care.